What up, guys? So today's podcast is going to be about hygiene. I'll tell you more about why we're having this podcast, and we'll talk about actually how important this is. Some of you in jiu-jitsu may have never come across the true importance of this. After we talk about this podcast, hopefully we'll change that a little bit. Really where this comes from is I had a little bit of an infection. I'll talk more about it recently, and I was talking to a brand new student, and when I'm giving him the lowdown on our hygiene policies at the gym, you could kind of tell by his body language and looking at me that man, this seems like a bit excessive, or wasn't quite getting it. And so I had to share some stories with him, which I'll share with you guys today, about some like true horror stories when it comes to gym stuff and staph infection, cellulitis, the whole deal. And if any of you have ever had this, then of course you're going to be there agreeing with me. But we'll talk about some of that. And hopefully this podcast is either informative to you if you're a little bit newer to jiu-jitsu, or if at the very least entertaining to you. Also, big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen so we can hopefully make the mats a slightly cleaner place, more hygienic place. Charlotte's Web CBD. We'll talk more about this later on, about sort of things like, and you'll understand why in a little bit, about sleep and nutrition and everything else. I posted on Instagram last night. I was showing people the sleep supplements that I wouldn't call them sleep supplements, but the supplements that I use in conjunction with my sleep, the things that I use to help support good rest and good sleep cycles. One of them was the Jocko's Good Night supplement. I think it's a pretty good one. I've used it for a while and I like it. There's no melatonin in it, and it's got some magnesium. It's like a ZMA supplement with better forms of zinc and magnesium, but it also has some other stuff in it to help relax you, like theanine and some lavender, things like that. And then I have the ashwagandha root that I take at about 300 milligrams. And again, ashwagandha has some cool benefits. I used it last year and I liked it. I got off of it and went back on it. I think it's a good supplement. And again, that's more of dealing with it. That's more related to stress, things like that, from what they found. And then the other one is CBD. And I've talked about CBD for a long time. It's a great supplement for a lot of different reasons. But one of the big reasons why I personally use it is because it seems to assist and support healthy sleep cycles. So again, for me, sleep is something that is super important. And I think that, over the last several years, I think the importance of sleep has become more and more mainstream and become more and more like popular. I felt like for a while in the 2000 teens, sleep was sort of getting this like, who cares? We don't need it. Sleep when I'm dead. Now it's kind of coming around and we understand that like you need it. You need it a lot and it's better for you, and you'll do better if you get more sleep rather than trying to, shortchange yourself on sleep and just, push through. So that said, it's a great supplement. And if you guys want to check it out, go to Charlotte's Web's website, charlottesweb.com. And when you go there, if you find a CBD product that you'd like to try, whether it be the gummies, the tinctures, which is the eyedroppers, the balms that they have, whatever it might be, check out or use the promo code at checkout, Jiu-Jitsu20, for 20% off the order. Again, that's CHEWJITSU20 for 20% off the order. Give it a try. And if you've already got CBD already, I would try some of those supplements I talked about earlier and throw them into your sleeping routine, your sort of winding down routine, and see how that helps. Also, thanks to Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Epic Roll is a jiu-jitsu gear and apparel company. They make everything from t-shirts, rash guards, shorts, gis, the whole thing. Whatever you want, jiu-jitsu related, they've got it. Good quality stuff, great customer service. I'm a fan of their designs as well. I'll actually be doing a couple of new batches of stuff with Matt, who's the guy that runs it. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's one of us, right? A jiu-jitsu guy. And he is going to be designing my new gym rash guards and shorts. And he'll be designing a new batch of jiu-jitsu rash guards and shorts. So more on that to come in the future. If you guys are interested in getting some jiu-jitsu or some Chewjitsu branded jiu-jitsu gear, then we'll have that coming up in the near future. But until then, if you'd like to check out his website and see what he has to offer, go to his website at epicrollbjj.com. Use the promo code Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU, for 15% off. Also, thanks to Manscaped for supporting the podcast. If you guys have never checked them out before, you can go to their website at manscaped.com. They're one of the premier men's grooming companies out there. And again, they've got everything from trimmers to both beard trimmers and body trimmers, to colognes, to shampoos, soaps, everything in between, right? I'm not going to take my computer off the desk, but if you're watching this, but I could go into my shower, you'd see all the Manscaped stuff. I washed my hair with their shampoo earlier. Again, it has no nasty chemicals like parabens and stuff like that. So it's a good product. And again, the cologne smells amazing. The trimmers really work. I like using the trimmer for my beard because it has an adjustable dial on it where you can just go up and down. But again, fantastic products. Everything's high quality. And again, so if you have a man in your life that needs to step up his grooming game, you have a buddy needs to step up his grooming game, or if you are a man who needs to step up his grooming game, go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Again, that's CHEWJITSU20 for 20% off and free shipping. And if you guys would like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. When you join up at the Patreon for an inexpensive price, you get access to our exclusive library of content that we produce over the years. A couple of key parts of that content that I think is useful, because we've got a lot of entertaining stuff. It's more podcast stuff that you kind of enjoy already. A lot of it's Eugene and I. There's also some stuff like specific warm-up routines for jiu-jitsu, right? Everybody wants a jiu-jitsu warm-up routine. Everybody wants to have one. Well, you could go there and learn it. I mean, you could literally pay for the membership, get it, learn it, and then again, enjoy the stuff, and you could cancel anytime, and you'd still be better off for it. Because again, having a good warm-up or cool-down routine to stretch out and strengthen certain jiu-jitsu related muscles, or muscles that we either use or get really tight in jiu-jitsu, is incredibly important. And so Eugene put together one of those warm-up routines in the podcast extras that you get. And then on top of that, there's also some good recordings from my end, where stuff that's never been released on YouTube. A lot of it's not on any of my courses on my website. It's there. And if you want access to it and get an ad-free version of the podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, and you can get access to it. And guys, if you would like to get my daily email, which is where a lot of the podcasts that we have are sort of based on, you can do so by going to my website at jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. And when you go to my website at jujitsu.net/join, you'll get access to a couple of exclusive ebooks that I give away that aren't available anywhere else for download. And then after that, you'll get my daily email where I send out emails about God knows what. Just depends on what's going on. Just like the podcast, you guys know I go on tangents. We'll talk about everything from books and philosophy to jiu-jitsu, whatever, and everything in between. And then on top of that, I send out exclusive offers through the email list that I do not release anywhere else. And so if you would like to get access to that, go to jujitsu.net/join and join up. So a little preface on today's podcast and where it came from. So back at the Origin camp, I got a little skin funk. I don't know what caused it. And I'm not saying that things weren't done, whatever. I just got some skin funk. This is my first time I've ever got any sort of skin funk, staph infection, cellulitis, whatever it is, in over 20 years of grappling.
That's impressive.
I think it's a pretty good track record, right? I've never had anything. And so this is my first one, and it sucked. It wasn't life-alteringly terrible, but it was like a pain in the butt for a while. I felt the little bump on Thursday. And if you guys were there at the Origin camp, I was training up until Wednesday, and man, I felt great. I was in great shape at the time. I was ready to roll and get after it. On Wednesday, I had some great rolls, and then, man, I started feeling something in my knee on Wednesday night, and I thought it was like maybe I tweaked my knee a little bit, right? Because I could feel pressure in my knee. And then the next day, I had a bump on my leg, and it was like had a little red spot around. I was like, oh no. And then it kept getting like worse. My whole leg swelled up, and by Sunday, I couldn't stand without having pain in my leg, which was not ideal. Luckily, some antibiotics took care of it. It's fine now. But when I was talking about this to some people, I was reminded of a story of one of my buddies. And as I said in the beginning, I had a new student come into the gym whom I'm explaining the importance of hygiene on the mats. And again, his body language is telling me, he's like, I don't get it. Why is this so important? So I had to lay it out for him. And so I was reminded of a story of my buddy, Dave Riley, who had probably one of the worst experiences ever with some sort of staph infection. In fact, my buddy almost lost his leg. So here's what happened. My buddy Dave, he trained at a gym during like an open mat or something, not my gym, a gym, right? That was in town that was not really known for its cleanliness. Right. It wasn't like cleanliness is not what they were known for. It was like one of those traditional sort of fighter gyms where everything's kind of grimy and everybody's just
Stinky.
getting after it. Yeah. You go in and you could just smell the staff in the air.
Oh yeah.
And so he gets done training and the next day he feels a little bump on his leg. The day after that, he ends up having a fever and he's not feeling too hot. So he goes to the doctor because there's some pain in that leg. They start, getting some antibiotics on him, whatever. About a week later, he's still in the hospital. And they've got him pumping up with like IV antibiotics. He's got like a little pick line set up, where they can just, because they're jamming so much stuff in there as much as possible. And that swelling, the redness is still growing. And at one point, the doctor tells him, hey, man, we're going to draw a line here on your leg. They put that line, they draw a little line on his leg, and they just tell him, hey, look, we've already thrown everything at you. We've got like this one last medication that we know to try. And if this doesn't work, we'll have to explore other options, something to that degree, right? Now, the doctor didn't say it at the time, but those other options were amputating his leg, right? So like he's sitting there in the hospital and, they're thinking about amputating his leg. And so, they give him this new medication and then Dave goes to sleep for the night, right? Dave wakes up and he was telling me, he had his leg covered with a blanket and he said he was too scared to look down and just see. He's like, man, I don't even want to know right now, because you're like, what if that line didn't recede? Yep. What do we do now? Right. And again, the whole time he's in pain. This is incredibly painful. So the doctor comes back, they pull back the blanket, the line receded back past the, backwards, right, away from the pin mark, and the whole room erupted, right? By the way, Dave's mother, who's a physician, flew down from Canada where they lived and was there with them. And she was there because she was like, honey, I thought you were going to lose your leg, right? Like, this is a physician talking, but she told him that after the fact, of course. So everybody's cheering, like, whatever. Now, luckily the medication took care of it, but Dave wasn't out of the weeds yet, because he had to take medication for about like another month or two, and had to continue to take medication, and he lost like 20 plus pounds, and it took him a while to get back up to speed. And so that was an extreme example, but that's something that could possibly happen. And over the years, there's been some really gnarly cases of staph infections, right? Either people just were training in nasty gyms, or when they had them, they didn't get them taken care of fast enough. One more that just sort of happened while I was dealing with my funk, right? My student was up training in Canada, and he was training with a guy who had like staph or ringworm on him. And when they got done, or when they were rolling, he put him in a heel hook, and he had like a long toenail and sliced his eye. So I think he like messed up his cornea or whatever that protective layer is. Yeah. So his cornea, scratched his cornea. And because he's just flailing out of a leg lock, and my student left from that gym with a scratched cornea and ringworm. Now ringworm is not nearly as bad as staph, but again, it's still unsightly. And if you have it, you shouldn't be training. And so again, these things happen, right? These little things where if you go to a gym, it's almost like, trim your nails, make sure you're clean, wash your gate, all this stuff. It can sound like they're nagging at times, because like a lot of times I have to like get on to students if I see them walk into the bathroom without their shoes on or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not to be a nag. It's because like I don't want funk on the mats. And it's really that important. Your cleanliness and your hygiene is that important. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And so where this is coming from. This is not Chewy being like, make sure you keep the mats clean, guys, and just being a nag. It's to protect you guys, because here's the deal. At the end of the day, at a certain point, you realize that what jiu-jitsu is really all about, and this is true with any skill acquisition, it's all about consistency for a long term, right? We know that long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity, right? So long-term consistency is what we're all about, and anything that derails us from not being consistent has to be addressed, and if at all possible, avoided completely, or at least lessening the probability that it's going to happen. And so when it comes to jiu-jitsu, if you get like some skin funk, you could be derailed from doing jiu-jitsu. Actually, when I sent this email out originally, when I was talking about this story, I got several emails from people. One guy sent me pictures of his chest, a guy named Tyler, and he showed me his chest and his shoulders and his neck, and he went to a competition, and they didn't check the guy's nails, and it looked like he had rolled with a Wolverine. He had scratches all over. Well, those scratches got him infected. And so he had to take medication and deal with it. One guy went to a gym and he ended up getting some funk on his knee, and it got so bad that his wife was like, "You're not going back to that gym," right? Because she, again, he was messed up from it for a while. So again, this stuff can be super serious and it can derail you. And if it derails us from training, then that's something that we want to avoid. And again, all this stuff is super simple to do, but it's something where I think a lot of times either people that are younger or just maybe not sort of ignorant towards what can happen. Sometimes it can just see like, it's not that big of a deal, but again, it only takes one time where it is. So we wanted to sort of stress that to help make the jiu-jitsu space a little cleaner, and also to give you a handful of tips here that you can follow some guidelines to make sure that you're protecting yourself and your training partners.
Yeah, the simple things are sometimes the more important things. They're like they're so simple, and they seem like when you don't understand the importance of them, you just kind of like, well, whatever. It's not anything that affects me or impacts me, but like, I mean, yeah, it can take you out of training. Not to mention, if you're on antibiotics, it can screw your gut up and just cause all kinds of other problems, cascade of issues. So it's a simple thing that, you can't obviously control what other people do with their hygiene. You can, try to recommend they do certain things, but take care of yourself too. Be someone that's diligent about your own self. So
yeah. Well, the simple things are always typically the best things. Typically simple, they're simple, but they're not easy, right?
yeah.
Or they can be easy, but sometimes they just take some slight diligence. But simple things are almost always the best, right? That's like where like I was talking about the importance of sleep when I'm talking about CBD and stuff, right? And people will try to say, well, like I was watching a thing the other day where they were talking about sleep and its effect on like your ability to lose body fat, right?
Okay.
So like you'll get people that will like exchange sleep so they can do extra exercise when they would probably be better off just sleeping a little bit more so that it doesn't affect their body negatively, both in their ability to like lose the body fat, but also their ability to just eat the right foods, because when you don't get enough sleep, all these other problems happen, that kind of thing. But anyway, without getting too much into it, simple things usually work. So let's go through some simple ideas, guys, on how to protect yourself and help protect your training partners when you're on the mat so that you don't get any funk, you don't spread any funk around to the people around you. So the first one, I mean, it's so damn simple. Just shower and be clean. It sounds so simple, but like I've had issues before with students where I actually had to go over this, like please come to the gym clean. Like if you got some deodorant, wear it. Like in a little bit sort of on an aside, even from a smell standpoint, like you're that close to someone, everybody appreciates someone that's clean. And if you like just had like a garlic salmon dinner, throw like a breath mint in there. We appreciate, or chew some gum or something, or brush your teeth. But shower and be clean. Now, you don't want to shower too quickly or too soon before training. Ideally, you'll shower, some hours either before training, or just make sure you're showering right after training, right? Now, that said, if you ended up doing something where you got really sweaty, funky, or you were exposed to some funk of some sort, yeah, obviously shower. And if that means that you have to go into the gym like right afterwards, that's fine. But again, you want to make sure you're protecting your training partners. But again, just shower and be clean in general. And that's an important tip. As far as soaps go, something to kind of keep in mind is a lot of companies will sell different products like defense soap, and I use Dr. Bronner's and things like that. They'll sell some different products out there. The ones that have actually been shown, so like a couple different oils, tea tree oil, and I think it's a eucalyptus, have both been shown to have some efficacy at fighting against things like MRSA. So I don't know the exact solution or how much tea tree oil versus the rest of the solution, but those two things have been found to help fight against MRSA. And so that could be something to consider when you're choosing a soap for yourself, like after training. Maybe have a soap that has some tea tree in it, it has some eucalyptus, things like that. Those are been shown to have some fighting effects against MRSA.
Yeah, and if you can't like get to the shower, those wipes seem to be, I don't know how effective they are, but it's probably better than nothing. They have like these Defense soap has like little wipes and stuff, and I use Defense soap, and that's what I've always used. But I think the main thing, like you said, is the tea tree oil, which is one of the main ingredients in Defense soap. So
yeah. Now again, do you need to go out and buy a like tea tree oil soap? No, you don't need to. These are just some ideas. I'm just sharing stuff with you. Like in the basement here, I use Dr. Bronner's, and I'll have like a peppermint and have a tea tree. I like the peppermint in the morning, kind of wakes me up a little bit. And if I typically, if I train in the morning, like after my early morning training session, I'll take a shower and I'll use the tea tree. So again, just something to consider when you're getting yourself some soap out there. The next tip, simple one, is trim your damn nails. So as I said before in the story about my student, he had his eye scratched and, damaged his eye. He had to wear like basically an eye patch for a while, had to keep his eyes closed. And he said it was super painful. He does some work for me on the internet, and he couldn't work for me for like 3 days because he couldn't open his eyes. And again, there have been people that have been blinded by long nails where they get an eye poke. I personally had my eyelid cut once, and it had like a slit right there. Guy was retaining his guard. His long talon of a toenail slid my across my face and cut my eyelid. So again, damaged it. And luckily, it wasn't my actual eye, so I got lucky. But again, trim your nails. And again, this might be very like, well, duh, Chewy. But again, I've seen so many people where I literally had one student where this is a couple of years ago, I literally had to bring him to me every single day of the training session. I said, let me see your nails. And he'd come in there and it's like long nails. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You can't have long nails. Like the grappling does not allow long nails. This is why on one of the podcasts recently, I was talking to one of the women that was on. And I was like, your nails look long.
Yeah. How do you train with those? Yeah.
I was like, how do you train? That's just to me is like, you don't do that in grappling. We can't have long nails because one, they get bent back all the time, but two, super dangerous, right? To have like long nails because of what they can do, if you're not careful. So again, you got to trim your nails. Also, scratches that happen can become infected. So if you're someone's grabbing you and their nails come across your back, not only if you're a guy, not only will you be in trouble that your wife thinks that you're out, cheating on her with some other woman while you're at jiu-jitsu. I had that, by the way, once. A guy had long nails. Yeah, this is like back when I was like 19. I was rolling with a guy. He had long nails, and I got this scratch. Like this guy was trying to grab my back, but we were doing no-gi. We only did no-gi once a week, and so he was trying to grab my back, and like as he grabbed, he was just reaching for material, and his nails dug in. So I had these scratch marks across my back. So of course, I come home one day, and I'm taking a shower, and my girlfriend she came over and she's hanging out, and she like looks at my back. She's like, "What are all those scratches from?" I was like, oh, this is from jiu-jitsu. Some guy did it. And, again, this is like well before jiu-jitsu and UFC stuff was very popular. So she's like, I don't believe you. You're seeing someone else. Like, I'm not seeing anybody else. I was like, come to jiu-jitsu. I'll show you.
Right.
And so she came to the gym and she's like, oh, this is what you're doing. Yep. But so again, you don't want to put your buddies into a bad situation. I don't know if women experience the same kind of issues. I know we have some women that listen to a podcast. So if you guys get it from your husbands, and that could be a thing. I just don't know. I have never experienced that side of things. But that said, trim your nails, both for your sake, so you don't, jack them up. So that sort of thing. And also so that you don't hurt your training partners.
All right. So here's the next one. I'll say it. If you're sick, you're ill, you got a little cough, little phlegm, a little nasally, or you got some little nasty spot on your leg, don't come in. Just err on the side of caution. Allergies are a real thing, but you can't attribute everything to allergies. So
yeah. And there's a difference, right? Like, so we know when we're sick versus we're having like an allergic reaction to something, like where, you get a little sniffles because the weather's changing or something. Yeah, that's fine. No big deal. Right. But I've had guys where they're just trying to keep their snot in. And then they're like coming in, they're coughing, and they have that deep cough in their lungs where
raspy kind of cough.
Yeah, well, it's like you can when they're coughing, it's like coming up from their lungs and they're hacking stuff up, and it's like they're like, oh, it's just allergies. I'm like, bro, it's not allergies. You have like some sort of infection going on. Like just just chill. Like again, it's one of those things where maybe it is some sort of like non-contagious thing. But at the same time, like a lot of people, sometimes you don't know unless you had a doctor look at it. So it could be an allergy. It could just be a cold that you could be spreading around. It's like little kids, right? Like they come home and they're like sniffling whatever. And then what happens? The whole damn house gets it, right? And so you're like, damn it. You know what I mean? So again, same thing for your training partners. Don't be like the little kid that comes home and spreads it around. Like just again, there's a point where your dedication to training becomes reckless to the people around you, right? And then again, same thing for like a spot on your body, like a nasty spot. I had one guy years ago. He came into the gym. This is like 2011, I think. And one of the students came up to me. He's like, Chewy. I'm like, what? He goes, like, you, man, Jeff's chest, man, like, you got to look at it. I'm like, what is it? And so he looks at me and goes, I think Jeff's got staph. And he said it whispering, because we don't, staff's not something you want to say loudly in a gym,
don't
right?
accuse people of it, right?
You're right. It's dangerous. I mean, that's like saying someone's got like AIDS or something. Everybody's just like, oh my God, like, get away from him. It freaks people out, right?
Oh, man. It does. It really does, man.
You're rolling on the mat and there's a guy, and all of a sudden someone goes, he's got staph, right? Like, you'd be freaking
Everybody
out.
runs.
Like, get off the mat. So anyway, Jeff comes up, I go to Jeff and I'm like, Jeff, hey, open your gi up. Let me see your chest. And he opens up and he's got this couple of these sores on his chest, like open sores that are like gooey and gross. And I bring him closer to me, and it like took everything in me not to like be a complete jerk, right? I said, Jeff, you need to get off the mat, brother. And he starts kind of like getting combative, because that was Jeff. And I'm trying to stay quiet, because again, I'm trying to say, Jeff, you got staph, loud enough for everybody to hear. So I'm like, he like kind of starts getting combative, and I sort of grab him by his neck and pull him closer. Said, Jeff, I was like, I will kick you off the mat if I have to. You have an infection on your chest. Go to the doctor, get it looked at. Please get off the mats, right? Like, go get that looked at, and I was like, and I walked him off the mat. I was like, hey, look, you got some sort of cellulitis, some sort of staph, some sort of skin infection.
Yep.
And it could be contagious. It may not be contagious. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You need to go get this looked at, and you do not come back until it's cleared up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I'm not telling anybody anything crazy, but how many people have, and I know everyone listening to this, unless you're the dirty person at your gym, which that do not sort of hold that with with like a point of pride.
Sure.
Everyone that practices a little bit of hygiene has had the guy or the girl in the gym who's coming in there and has some skin funk, nasty gear, or has like they're coughing and they're sick, and you're like, what are you doing on the mats? Get off the mats. But again, people act like if they take one day off or they take a week off to let something settle, that somehow they're going to lose their progress, right? I promise you, you're not going to lose your progress to take a few days off to get yourself healed up and get yourself feeling better, right? And in a lot of cases, you trying to push through it and train will actually make you sicker. One more story before we hop off this topic. I remember years ago, I was on the mats and I wasn't feeling very good. Like, I just started to feel a little run down, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to roll tonight. And one of my training partners, Rich, one of my black belts, he started coming in and talking trash to me. He's like running his mouth and messing with me, trying to egg me on, because he wanted to roll with me. So he's like, you whatever, bro. You're just ducking me, whatever, that kind of thing. So I rolled with him. I was like, all right, let's get after it. So I had a hard roll session. It felt great. The next day I woke up, I was sicker than a dog, and I had I ended up getting like strep. I haven't had strep since I was a little kid, but I had like bacterial strep, so I had to take antibiotics for it. And again, it sucked. I had to do that for about 4 days or whatever. It took me off the mat for about 4 days. And again, I don't know for a fact, but I have a hunch that if I would have simply just took it easy on a day, my body probably could have fought off an infection or whatever. I would have been okay. But because I had to run myself into the ground because I had to keep training, there's a problem. So just an idea to chew on that one.
I think that's a great tangent. That's a great point, is to listen to your body. If you're feeling kind of off, it might just be, hey, maybe better off you take it easy. Maybe you don't roll. Maybe you just drill and then take it easy to take some rounds off, whatever it is. Listen to your body, because if your body's telling you like, hey, you're a little bit off, you probably are, and you could hopefully mitigate and stop the descent of getting sick. You possibly could cut it off and get yourself kind of feeling better if you just take it a little bit easy, listen to your body, and don't stress yourself enough.
Right, because I mean, your body's constantly being bombarded with things that could potentially make you sick, right? But if your body's immune system is running well, it kills all that stuff out of the way, right? No problem. But it's when your body's immune system gets really wrecked that, again, you're more susceptible to illnesses and things like that. It's a very simple idea. So again, try not to run yourself into the ground. We'll talk about that more in a bit. The next tip is very simple. Clean your gear. If you got boxing gloves, clean those suckers because they get gross. If you've got a jiu-jitsu belt, wash it. Get that sucker washed because again, your belt needs to be washed. It gets sweaty and nasty too. Also something to consider is you need to, if you can, even if it's on a lower heat, you want to try to dry your gi, or put it out in the sun or something like that. Because again, not all the bacteria is going to be just washed away, right? So again, you want to get a gi that you can hopefully dry because the drying actually helps kill the bacteria.
Yeah.
Opposed to when you're just washing it and then you just hang dry it down in the basement, it's not necessarily going to kill all that funk off there. And again, you can put it in the sun or something like that. But we want to try to like wash our gi and dry it so we can get rid of all the nastiness. Plus, it'll smell better.
Yeah, I think people always like, I'm gonna lose all my skill if I wash my belt. I'm gonna lose all my skills, all my sweeps, all my takedowns, all my stuff. No, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, it's such a weird thing though. And that's the thing we wear. Like if you do gi, that's the thing you wear, pretty much the same thing you wear. I mean, you're gonna change your gis. Most people have more than one gi. You're gonna wear that every time you do gi class. So it's very important to wash that.
Yeah, and again, I know that a lot of people don't wash their or don't dry their gis, but just you can go look up, and again, it's important that like if you're trying to get as much funk off there as possible, like every bit of it, some of it comes off obviously from washing it, but if you want to try to get rid of everything, you get that from drying that sucker. And so again, just get a high quality gi that can shrink a little bit and you'll be fine. Or if you get like a high quality gi, like an Origin or anything like that, they don't shrink very much. So you don't have to worry about it. All. Yeah.
Oh, so and they like almost dry out of the washing machine. They feel dry, so they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, they don't hold much water.
Oh. And they actually have like an antimicrobial like fiber or something in them, which is crazy. They like weave.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah, I remember Pete telling us about it on one of the podcasts. Like there's an antimicrobial like weave. There's something in there that like helps fight off some of the germs.
So another tip that not all of you guys will have control of is to clean your gym. If you're a gym owner, instructor, whatever, clean your gym, practice good cleaning habits, right? Mop your mats, spray your mats, whatever you do. And for those of you that, are going into a gym, be mindful if you go into a gym and see people like walking around with no shoes on or having long nails or having nasty, grody smelling stuff, maybe that's not the best place to train long-term, or maybe sort of bring it up to someone, but again, you want to be a part of a gym that keeps themselves clean. Because again, it sounds so stupid, but to me, poor hygiene is just poor training. Because when we get down to it, again, I don't want staph infections are going to derail you from training, possibly for a short amount of time, possibly for a long amount of time. You don't know. So again, we want to try to keep that stuff at bay. So again, you want to try to do whatever you can to help keep your gym clean, and also, again, be a part of a clean gym and just be mindful of it.
Chewy, what do you think? We were at a gym once and they had like this little like a little foam type, I don't know, like
the trays.
Like a foot bath or a foot wash or something. I wonder how effective we don't have one of those obviously, but like we've seen them in the gym. You almost like soak your feet or something, then you kind of wipe them off. I'm not sure. Like I guess there's some kind of solution you use. Yeah.
There's like a solution that's there that's going to kill a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know the efficacy of it. We're going to put some of those on the boxing side soon, because a lot of times the boxers hate taking their shoes off because they have boxing shoes. And so we'll put some of those there, or have, that kind of thing, or have one for the jiu-jitsu mat for the new people that forget to like walk off with their shoes,
Yeah. But you ever seen like if you have people coming in your house, like painters or cleaners, will put those little booties over their shoes and stuff. I guess you could probably do something like that. I wonder if there's something that people could use, but
at the same time, nobody's going to put those booties on, bro. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where again, you got to think about what people will do. Right. Yeah. And so I guarantee you, no one's like, if you have like a 2-minute water break, no one's going to take the time to like slip on a booty. Yeah. So if you give them at least a tray, maybe that helps out a little bit, right?
Yeah, maybe. But those like boxing shoes or the wrestling shoes, man, to put those on and off, those are annoying.
It's so crazy to me, because I remember being in like wrestling back in the day, and we had like zero hygiene. I mean, it was disgusting. As teenagers, I remember it just foul. Even the football team was just as bad. I remember one guy on the football team, he had a jersey. So like you'd have your practice jersey, And you would typically wash it like once a week or whatever. You didn't wash it every single session. And but he didn't wash it the whole year. It was, dude, it was foul. Like you could smell him coming. You know what I mean? And it was awful. I remember like I think at one point someone sprayed him with a hose. But but I think about that and I'm like, man, how did we not get just nasty funk? One of the gyms I trained at for a while, I was gone for a little bit because of work related stuff, and I remember everybody got like some nasty like it went around the whole gym.
That's such a great point. Like, I mean, shit, you could like screw training partners up. You're not gonna have anybody to train with,
Oh, bro, the whole gym was literally like they had to shut down for like a week or two because everybody was gone. Like the instructors had it, the students had it. You didn't have enough people left to even run classes because it was a small gym as it is, and then everybody did not practice good hygiene, and everybody got some sort of mat funk, and so everybody had to take time off.
Yeah, man, it just impacts everybody. Yep. And then your significant other is gonna be like, you're not going to go train because you're gross, and get out of the bed and go take care of yourself. And I don't want you going. And if you're getting that's something you get consistently, because it seems like some people repetitively get that stuff. They get skin infections all the time. Yeah. I don't know what it is, like what makes somebody more prone to it. I don't know if getting it once makes you more prone to it again. I don't know. It's bro science, but man, who knows? All right. So next tip we're going to talk about is just being mindful of your cuts. Like if you got some kind of cut, scrape, scratch, obviously people train with those all the time, but try to cover them up. I think Chewy, one thing you've done is like using like, what was it? Like skin, like liquid skin. Is that what it's called?
Liquid skin. Yeah. If you're trying to keep it covered, sometimes I'll put liquid skin on. Like
liquid skin. Also, like when people first get to training, like, and this is like a video on my YouTube channel that's pretty popular, surprisingly, is like what to do about mat burn, because people get mat burn all the damn time, especially if you're a newer grappler and like your feet kind of aren't like
got those little virgin knees and toes.
Exactly. So like there's a way that like I would tape. I wouldn't put directly tape on it. Like you can put some band-aids and stuff, but I would use like a pre-roll. It's like kind of like a foamy type. That, and it usually, your stuff, it'll keep it cushioned and won't put the adhesive directly on it, because every time you put adhesive, like a tape adhesive on your cut or whatever, it's going to open it back up. So you'll put like a layer of some sort up there and then just cover it up with some tape. I think that really helps. But tape can be helpful. Again, it's not always the end all be all. In certain spots you can't tape because they're kind of weird and the tape won't adhere to it. So but you said you use liquid skin. It seems like to work pretty well too. But yeah, covering up those nasty, and sometimes I'll even do, like if I've got a spot, I'll wear like a rash guard over it or something like that. Maybe like a long sleeve, my elbow's got something going on, like maybe like a scratch or something like that. And especially with tattoos as well. Like if you're still healing, I mean, obviously take the right time to heal up, but that can be something to think about as well. Keep it covered.
Yeah. Well, and two, another thing just to sort of throw out there is you were talking about wipes earlier. If you have some wipes, I mean, even if you don't have anything to cover it with, that can be a quick option. Like when you're done, just,
right after,
wiping off those specific areas, again, like if you have any cuts or abrasions, wiping off those specific areas. Also random thing that popped up when I was thinking about, when we were talking about, keeping the gym clean and stuff, is years ago, all these little stories are coming back to me now that we're talking about them. Years ago, there was a guy that I was training with who had a ringworm. And like ringworm's not that big of a deal. I don't freak out about it that much. You know what I mean? Like I've rolled with plenty of people that had it and I never got it, but it's still, you don't want to give someone the worm. But we had one guy that used to get rewormed so much we called him the Lord of the Ring.
What is that? Like, that's what I would wonder. Like, why are people so susceptible? Like, we talk about this, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
You do have certain bacteria like on your skin, good bacteria, obviously, and then there's bad bacteria. But I wonder if like it's a certain balance of bacteria on your skin, or even like, even I know some people use like antibacterial soap, and this might be bro science again, but like sometimes the antibacterial soap can kind of kill the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. So I don't know. Like,
I don't know. That
might be something to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use an antibacterial soap. I've always used stuff that's like, like soaps made from like oils and like natural stuff. I've been like kind of a hippie about that kind of stuff for a long time. Like
for sure.
I don't use deodorants with aluminum and stuff in them. I've used soaps that were made of like natural stuff for like since like the 2000s, like the mid 2000s, because like I was like, you know, like I started looking into it. And I was like, I was like, I don't necessarily need this stuff all the time, right? So I'll just use this soap here instead. And it seemed like a little safer. And I rarely wash my hair. Occasionally I will when it gets a little grimy, but otherwise no need to wash it. The natural oils are there. Eugene doesn't wash his hair because he doesn't have much anymore. That's okay.
I still use soap though. I use soap on my head.
Of course. But I got ringworm from a guy that I was rolling with, and I looked at him, I was like, and I saw it, I was like, well,
yeah.
Because I saw it, I was like, damn it, dude, like, why do you have ringworm? Why are you on the mats? I got it, and it was right on my arm. And I remember I didn't realize it, and I ended up like sleeping with my girlfriend one night. We were laying next to each other, you know,
did you give her
snuggled
up?
You
gave her ringworm, dude?
On her face.
Oh my God.
She had like a little spot. I was like, oh, great.
You're like, I don't know what that is. So
you're welcome. You
figure out that out now. Oh my God, Chewy. That's impressive.
Fault.
Good for you. Well, it kind of was actually.
It was not, because it was the other guy's fault. I didn't know what was going on.
You know, yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, got a little ringy, and it wasn't too bad. It cleaned up fine with some stuff, but nonetheless, I remembered that anyway. So yeah, so if you got cuts, things like that, again, just be mindful of them. Again, when we're talking about all this stuff, we're not like saying that you need to have some crazy checklist or anything like that. Just it's stuff to be mindful of if you've got them, and just to make sure you give them a little extra cleanings, a little extra love when you're done training. The last thing to sort of talk about is basically take care of yourself. Again, we've talked about this and alluded to this multiple times. If your body's running well and you're healthy, you're in shape, you're going, everything's good, your body's more resilient. It's more resistant to anything that's going to come its way. Again, as I said before, I've been training for over 20 years in grappling since 2000, if you count wrestling, and I've never had a skin funk at all. It's what until recently. So pretty good track record. And again, I think a lot of that's just I've taken pretty good care of myself, you know, for the most part. But again, when your body's healthy and everything's running well, you're less likely to get some funk on you, and you're less likely to get sick or whatever it might be. And so again, just keep that in mind. You know, if you're friggin' running yourself ragged, drinking lots of alcohol, have terrible sleep, eating fast food every day, maybe, you know, change some of those habits up. Maybe eat less fast food, maybe drink no alcohol on the weeknights, and maybe get better sleep. I mean, it's something to consider.
Yeah. As we talk about this stuff, it's just the stupid things that we've done during. I don't have anything against masks. I'm just gonna say that. But if you're wearing a damn mask at jiu-jitsu, like, oh, you're sick, and I'm gonna wear a mask and think it's gonna fix something. I'm just like, I remember seeing that. We had somebody wear a mask. I was like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get like sweat in the mask, on the mask. It's gonna get moved around. Anyway, I don't feel like
that was funny, bro.
And if you have some type of evidence-based stuff to tell me, but I definitely don't feel like wearing a mask if you're sick during training is going to do anything at all. So that's it. That's just me.
Well, no, I mean, it was like I talked about that back in 2020 when COVID was, you know, running around and everybody was getting that word. Okay, sorry. When everybody was getting this, when everybody was getting the spicy Wuhan back in the day, you know what I mean? I remember talking to someone, and I think I did a video on it, and they were talking about, you know, coming back to training, and they were like really worried about getting the virus. I was like, listen, it's like this whole thing that you've been doing, none of this was safe, right? I mean, the whole time you could have been infected with all kinds of stuff. If anybody comes onto the mat with anything, you can get sick. And you know, any sort of idea that you had that this was like completely safe is an illusion. Yeah. And so I never understood the people that were doing the masks on the mat. I thought it was silly.
It was. And then we're going to put you in a box. Anyway, we don't have to get into that. I don't even want to talk about that shit. But
I mean, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, but that's not all I'm saying is that is not a viable option for mitigating any kind of illness to be passed on. If you have anyway. But
not in a jiu-jitsu
somebody might argue. No, exactly. I'm talking about. I don't give a shit about. I'm not talking about anything else.
I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can argue that. Like, I mean, in a jiu-jitsu setting, I don't know how you could argue
Somebody
that
will
you would have
argue.
to,
I guarantee somebody like, Chewy, we
bro,
wore
you would have
masks
to,
and nobody got sick.
and they can do that. But again, I think in a jiu-jitsu setting, if you would want to mitigate all the risk of all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you'd have to come in like a hazmat suit, with a
Hazmat
respirator.
suit with like oxygen, self-contained
Yeah,
oxygen, and all
right.
this stuff.
I mean, it
Anyway,
would be ridiculous. I mean, it's just, it is what it is.
I mean, like if that's how scared you are, just don't train. I mean, that's it. Just give
Yeah,
yourself
and
a
there's
little
nothing
time.
wrong with that. Like
Nothing wrong
I
with it.
had plenty of people back in the day that took time off from training, and they're back now because they were super nervous. And ain't nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
Absolutely, but they were
Just
smart
like,
about it, and they made their
yeah,
decision. They weren't like, "I'm going to wear a mask and it's going to fix everything because I'm on the mats." I'll
yeah,
wear
no,
that
it's
mask.
fine.
No,
Take
they,
your
they were
time off.
good, right? I'm not saying I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. I'm not trying. I just don't feel
Oh,
like
you
it
can
made
stop.
sense to me. I use my common sense. I'm like, this doesn't quite add up.
I mean,
So
we're not making fun of you, but again, wearing it on the mats probably just doesn't make any sense. So,
it just doesn't, and that's okay. But people are going to do what they're going to do to make themselves have some semblance of safety
sure.
and security or whatever.
So, guys, that is the podcast. Those are some ideas, some tips for you. Again, just to make the hygiene in the gym better. If you end up, having a dirty, funky person in your gym, send this podcast to them. Say, please listen to this, and then come back to the gym tomorrow. Be a little bit cleaner, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just simple stuff. But again, wanted to do it
it
over there and also share some of the crazy stories I've had with giving
Yeah.
my ex-girlfriend ringworm, my buddy losing his leg, and having to
Yeah,
kick students off
yeah.
the mat for staff, long nails, the whole thing.
And I think like the one thing, if you don't know how to approach someone about that, have a coach do it. Like too, like sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but don't like make someone feel like shit about it. Like try to educate them and teach them and like, hey, this is kind of what's going on. And like I think there's nice ways to do it. There's asshole ways to do it as well. And if you're not sure how to do it, have your coach do it. Just because I think it's important as you're doing it for like the betterment of the gym and everyone else and that individual. So I mean, that's just like my opinion on it for sure.
Well, right. Well, I mean, that's true with anything. We don't want to make people feel like crap with it. And the thing that happens a lot of times is what becomes common knowledge to those of us that are on the in, right, is not common knowledge everywhere. Because if you think about it, there's really no rules as far as trimming your nails. Nobody cares. If you have a cut or an abrasion, it's not a big deal. I mean, just a lot of these things that we do in jiu-jitsu, they're just not a big deal outside of the gym. So when people come in, they just don't know. And a lot of time they're just ignorant towards it. And so all they need to do is just be caught up to speed with it. And so if you do find someone that is practicing in some dirty, funky habits, don't take it as like offensive. Just say, hey, saw that you were walking with your shoes off the mat. This is why we don't do this, or, hey, I saw that you have really long nails. Here's why we need to train this, or here's why we need to trim those.
Yeah,
I mean, simple stuff like that, or if you got some guy that's got like some nasty, smelly, stinky gi, hey, bacteria is not victory. It's not your knowledge. It's bacteria, and it stinks, and it can get us, the rest of us, infected. So
for
please
sure.
take that gi home and wash it. Oh, one more. I just thought of this.
So bonus
oh
tip.
yeah, I've had so many like dirty mongrels in my gym. Love them.
We were all dirty mongrels at one time too. We
that's
were all
right.
there. We've
Oh,
all
I
done
was a
some
dirty.
shit.
I was
that's like
I was a dirty mongrel at some point.
we've all done some stuff. Like I've like gone like without washing my belt, and I was like, I didn't want to wash it.
Sure.
Or didn't even think about washing it, and so I mean, I think we've all done dumb stuff. So this is like not going like preaching to people. Like when I started, like you certain shit you just didn't know about. So
well, this guy was this exceptional dirty mongrel. So I came in one day to the gym, and a couple of the guys at the front were like, "Hey, Chewy, you need to go talk to Mike back there." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Bro, his gi, it stinks." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Just go see." So they were on one of the mats, just kind of drilling. I walk up to the mat, and when I'm about 10 feet out, I start getting whiffs of it, and it's strong. It's like, oh, bro. I mean, it smells like some mixture of body odor, mildew, and cat pee all rolled up into one. It's terrible. And so I get up there, and I'm like, oh man, this just smells terrible. I don't understand how these guys are on the mat rolling with them, because it's like it's burning my nostrils. And so I was like, hey, Mike. He's like, yeah. I was like, come here, man. And he comes up, and I say, man, when's the last time you cleaned your gi? Right? When's the last time you washed your gi? And he like pauses and he starts looking up, like to kind of think about it. I was like, no. It's like, bro, you got to go home. You got to take the gi home and wash it. And he's like, why? I was like, bro, and I'm, explaining it to him. I was like, because he took offense because he really wanted to train that day. And I, sort of informed him about the negative sides of having bacteria just crawling all over your gi, waiting to be spread. And, that was that. And he always had a clean gi afterwards, and we were good to go.
Here's another one. This is the floodgates are opening now.
Yeah.
Don't get done training and then shove your gi in your bag and throw your bag in your trunk and let it sit for a week. And then you remember about it and then you wear it. It's been just stewing in your shit and your grossness and it smells horrible. You got to sometimes soaking stuff. I'll soak in vinegar. You can soak a gi in vinegar and stuff like that. That can be helpful
if you need
too,
to get rid of the smell.
Right, for the smell and stuff. But yeah, people forget that. A great thing that you got me onto was stinky bags.
Stinky separating,
bags nice. Yeah, because you may have some clean gear, and then you throw your sweaty stuff in there. It's going to mix it up all together. So get a stinky bag will separate your clean stuff and your dirty stuff.
Yeah, and if you ever have trouble with your rash guards, especially your rash guards, they just keep getting stinky, just you can do a vinegar soak, and that typically helps. Another one. This time, this is a stinky Chewy story. So, one of my MMA fights, I pulled the ultimate nasty stinky thing. So, I was training in the middle of July, right? It's hot as can be in Louisville, and it's got that muggy southern heat where it's humid out there. Everything's just wet. And trained. It was my last training session before this fight. Got it. The shorts that I had were drenched. I threw them in a plastic grocery bag, tied it up, sealed it in, and threw them in my trunk. And I just completely forgot about it. I just didn't think about it. I don't know why. And then next Saturday rolls around, and I'm all of a sudden, I get to the venue where I'm going to be fighting, and all of a sudden I realize, oh no, my shorts are still in my car. So I go in there and I open it up, and I mean, it was foul. It was just disgusting. And so I took them with me, and I aired them out a little bit, and then I took them in with me into our we have a room where we're all getting ready before the fights, and so all the fighters are in this one room. So there's probably 10 different fighters in this particular room that we're in. And I hear a couple guys go, man, what the hell is that smell? Because they smell the shorts.
Yep.
So I took the shorts and I hung them outside of a window. I opened up a window and sort of hung them outside to sort of keep the air from wafting in. And I put them on right before it was time to fight. And I went out there and fought and, beat the guy, whatever. Well, when I was done, I remember taking pictures with people that are out in the audience. And one guy comes up to me, and I mean, he's like, oh my God, you smell terrible, and the shorts were disgusting. But anyway, yeah, that was a dirty, Chewy mongrel story.
Yeah, we all got them. We all done it.
But have you ever had shorts soaking in their own sweat in the middle of July heat for a full week and then went north-south on a guy during an MMA fight?
He probably deserved it. That's what he gets picking a fight with you, buddy. That's just insult to injury, though. I mean, it could be motivation for him to get out of that position, right? Get the hell out. That smells. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not fun rolling with the stinky guy or the stinky person at the gym. It's just never pleasurable. It's just you kind of avoid them. If you're super stinky, people might avoid training with you. I mean, it's a real thing.
So, guys, if you listened to this whole podcast of us sharing some basic hygiene tips and talking about stinky stories, if you have a stinky story, send me a DM on Instagram, send Eugene a DM on Instagram at the Jiu-Jitsu podcast or whatever, or you can send us an email if you don't use Instagram to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Is it at Gmail?
Yep. So we've got, they can send it on Instagram, Jiu-Jitsu podcast, or the Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu podcast at Gmail. Either one.
And we'll do a segment next time on one of the shows, and if we get enough stories, we'll read off some of your stinky stories. So send us your stinky stories and dirty, stinky jiu-jitsu stories. We'll throw them up there, and we'll have some fun with them. Because I'm sure.
Man. Yeah.
What's that?
Stuff just comes up. You just start just remembering this stuff, and usually it's when you first start, and we talk about being kind of common sense, but when you're brand new, it's not common sense. It's kind of you just don't know what the hell you're doing.
Well, right. And I just know that as soon as I'm going through this, I'm sure people are driving in their car And as I'm talking about this, and as you're talking about stories, they're probably in their own heads thinking, man, I know about this one guy that did this. And those can be fun stories to share. So
Yeah.
feel free to shoot us a message or email, and we can talk about your stinky story on the podcast next time. But again, thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Hopefully you were entertained or learned a little bit if you were sent this podcast because you are in fact the stinky person in your gym. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Charlotte's Web CBD. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. And again, whether you want to try the tinctures, the gummies, the THC-free products, whatever it might be, if you want to try some CBD and save 20%, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to our buddy Matt at Epic Roll. He's been a sponsor of the podcast for a long time. He makes great gear and apparel, cool designs, great quality, great customer service. And if you would like to check out his website and see what he has and save 15%, if you find something, then go to his website at epicrollbjj.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu for 15% off the order. Also, thanks to Manscaped for helping bring the podcast to you. If you guys want to check out any of their colognes, washes, body washes, shampoos, because body washes are good for cleaning ourselves, right? Making sure we don't get the funk. Or their trimmers, the beard trimmers, body trimmers, whatever it is, go to their website. They have great products, premium products. And again, you can get 20% off of whatever it is you buy from them and get free shipping by going to their website at manscaped.com. And the promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off. Also, if you want to join our Patreon and support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Upon joining, you'll get access to an ad-free version of the podcast. You'll get access to an exclusive library of content that we've built up with some important things that could be useful to you. Again, I preach about the warm-up routine that Eugene put together. It's a 20-minute routine for jiu-jitsu practitioners specifically. So if you have tight muscles and things like that, it can be really useful to help improve your mobility and your flexibility related to jiu-jitsu movements. And I was thinking about this morning. Over the years, my jiu-jitsu flexibility or movement has improved. And I remember someone asking me one time, they were like, Chewy, is it really important that I'm flexible for jiu-jitsu or can I get around it? And you can make jiu-jitsu work for anything. Like if you don't have flexibility, jiu-jitsu will still work for you. But consider this. Think of jiu-jitsu techniques as simply movements, right? That's all they are. And so the more options that we have to move our body, we essentially have more capacity for movements. So essentially you have more potential weapons that you could use, right? And so again, if you could fix some of your hip issues or some of your tight hip issues or whatever, or shoulders, whatever it might be, by doing a simple warm-up that takes like 20 minutes, you do it a few times a week, and that could increase your ability to do more moves and more effortlessly, more fluidly. Why wouldn't you do it? And again, you don't have to do an extensive 3-hour stretching routine. It doesn't take that long to start to get some more movement in your body. So again, it's just something to consider. I was thinking about that today because I've been able to do some different movements that I was not able to do back in the day that I can do now. And again, it's just by simply doing a little self-work on my body and doing some stretches periodically. And again, it's a good use of your time. So anyway, you can get all of that. Plus there's some additional recordings of seminars and things like that I posted up. And you can get it at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast and give it a look. Also, if you would like to join my newsletter and get my daily email, you can go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to some exclusive content that I've created. They're ebooks. One is an ebook on drilling strategies to get rid of plateaus in your game. So if you're hitting a sticky point, it'll help bust through that sticky point. Comes with a video as well. And the other one is developing a game plan for your game. And if you're doing like a tournament or something like that, it could be really useful if you have your first tournament coming up, or maybe if you had not such good results at the last tournament. Understanding your game plan is really important for performing at your best. So again, just a couple ideas to chew on with that. And then again, you will get my daily email, which goes into all sorts of different topics and exclusive offers that I send only to the email list, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Hope you had a good time. We'll talk to you next time.